Something breaks at work, not a small thing, a real failure. Product recall, regulator fine, quarter that just erased 2 years of growth. You sit through the all hands, you read the internal memo, you wait for the part where they explain what they're going to do differently so this never happens again. And then you notice that's not what arrives first. What arrives first is bodies. The VP is gone, pursuing other opportunities. The risk director gets moved to a team of 1. The compliance officer keeps the title, but somehow every approval workflow now quietly routes around her. You ask someone who's been there longer than you, "Are we finally fixing things?" They glance at the door, lower their voice. First the people, then the policy. And you realize you're inside a rule no one ever wrote down, but every organization runs the moment the pressure hits. When a crisis hits, the first reaction isn't to fix the problem. It's to find someone to blame. You're not the target, probably, but you're living under the logic. There are three seats you can occupy during a purge, not job titles, survival positions. Seat 1. You watch. You don't defend anyone. You don't attack anyone. You just wait for it to be over. Sounds safe. What you don't see coming, you get filed under low risk, low ceiling. No one fires you. No one promotes you either. You just become someone who can be routed around. You stop committing to anything that crosses departments because you don't know which faces will still be there next month. Colleagues become polite. They don't talk about the purge around you. They're not sure if you're an audience member or a censor. And when the dust settles and new power seats open, you're not in any of them. You waited away your window. Seat 2. You stand by the system. You tell yourself this is about accountability. But what you don't realize is you're becoming the shield for a system that's not about to change. Hard, but necessary. Sounds loyal. What no one bills you up front, your explanations aren't recorded. But the fact that you're explaining is. When phase 2 of the purge arrives, when they start scanning for ambiguous loyalty, your name quietly surfaces. Your bosses don't trust you as an insider. You weren't in the room. Your team doesn't trust you as a shield. You only explain, you never block. You spend your energy justifying the system instead of reading its trajectory. When the next wave comes, you're the least prepared. Seat 3. You treat the purge as data. You don't defend. You don't retreat. You open a private document. Who left? Under what label? Decision maker or recommender? Single exit or sector sweep? You stop asking why him. You start asking why now. Sounds cold. What this seat actually costs? 0 short-term return. No one thanks you for seeing clearly. You have to calibrate distance perfectly. Cold enough to observe, warm enough not to isolate yourself. People find you a little odd, not threatening, just hard to place. And you have to surrender something fundamental, the belief that organizations are supposed to be fair. If that belief is wired into you, this seat will quietly exhaust you. 3 seats. None of them are correct. But not choosing is a choice. It just comes with the longest, least audited cost sheet. Here's the framework no one gives you. You don't need to predict who's next. You need to answer one question. What phase is this system in? Collect 3 signals. First, what kind of failure are we looking at? Sometimes it's capability. Someone misread the market, missed the deadline, approved the bad vendor. Execution failure. Human. Sometimes it's structural. The problem isn't a person, it's that 2 people held the same decision key. It's that ownership boundaries were drawn wrong 10 years ago and no one ever fixed them. Capability or structure. First signal. Second, who's being removed. Sometimes it's targeted, one name, two names, directly traceable to the event. Sometimes it's a sector sweep, an entire unit, a whole function. Everyone who was in the room when that old project got greenlit 5 years ago, targeted or sectoral. Second signal. Third, what comes after the exit? Within 30 days, do you see a new policy, a redrawn org chart, rewritten approval thresholds, or nothing? Just more names, more announcements, more we wish them well. Policy follows or purges the policy. Third signal, now read the combination. If you see capability failure, targeted removal, and policy follows within 30 days, you're in controlled adjustment. The system still functions. Reform might actually happen. If you see structural confrontation, sector sweep, and power reallocation within 60 days, you're in threat isolation. The purge serves centralization. Someone is retrieving keys. If the threat is ambiguous, the sweep keeps expanding, and policy work has completely stalled, you're in defense mode. The system is no longer optimizing for performance. It's optimizing for certainty. And what happens when certainty no longer guarantees survival? The real test begins. And certainty in this phase means removing anyone who wasn't already pre-cleared. If failures are piling up, exits are indiscriminate, and the only thing happening is more exits, you're in the terminal phase. Reform has left the building. Purge is governance. Here's the part that sounds like I'm reading something I shouldn't have access to. 2,300 years ago, someone watched courts do this. Crisis hits. The ruler doesn't change the law. He removes the people around the law. The observer didn't call it cruelty. He called it sequence. You cannot reform what is still occupied. You can't rewrite the rules while the people who benefited from the old rules still sit at every decision node. So first you remove, then you rewrite. That's not a moral position, that's topology. Modern organizations don't say remove, they say restructure, streamline, new leadership to drive transformation. But the sequence hasn't changed. A tech company leaks your data. The first exit, the privacy officer, not the policy, not the audit protocol, the person. That's the sequence. A bank loses $2 billion on a trade no one understood. The CEO retires to spend more time with family. The risk model isn't even reviewed until month 4. That's the sequence. A media outlet faces a scandal. The first committee formed isn't about editorial standards, it's about leadership evaluation. You know the sequence. Critics call it scapegoating. Supporters call it accountability. The system doesn't care what you call it. The system just runs its code. So, what do you actually do with this? Not how to survive. That's the wrong question. 3 directions, not steps. Directions. 1, keep a timeline, not a list of names, a list of intervals. Crisis to exit, how many days? Exit to new policy, how many weeks? New policy to next crisis, how many months? 6 months from now, you won't be guessing. You'll be reading the cycle. But what if the cycle shifts again? What if the game changes completely? 2, learn to see the 2 kinds of redundancy. Some people leave because the work is gone. Budget cut, technology replacement, function evaporated. That's functional redundancy. Some people leave because their existence is a problem. They don't even do much anymore. But they were there. They remember, others remember them. Their presence is a silent alternative. That's political redundancy. Next time you see someone removed from a role that still has workload, still has budget, and their successor is visibly not stronger, you're not watching optimization, you're watching topology reset. 3, build something that can't be a quick fix. In a purge cycle, the system fears power nodes, people who decide. people who allocate, people who approve, but it still needs function nodes. People whose judgment is hard to replace, whose domain knowledge took years to accumulate, whose track record of caught that risk before it blew exists on paper. Don't try to move from function node to power node during a contraction. That's counter-cyclical. The wind is against you. Instead, increase the non-accelerable properties of your function. Don't strive for more signature authority. Strive for more traces of professional judgment that can't be rubber stamped by someone else in 30 days. This doesn't protect you from purge. It protects you from being classified as political redundancy. None of this shortens the chain. None of this makes you safer during the wave. Clarity is not armor. It's just the qualification to name what you're inside. But next time someone asks you, what's happening at your company? You won't say, chaos. Morale is terrible. I don't know who's next. You'll say, we're in defense phase. Purge and reform have decoupled. I'm reducing non-essential visibility until the cycle turns. One sounds like anxiety. The other sounds like you've seen this before. When you start reading the system this way, you notice something else. It's not just people being removed. It's the trust lines between them. Colleagues who once backed each other now avoid being seen together. Informal alliances that made cross-functional work possible are now being quietly re-audited. You haven't lost your network. You've lost the confidence that your network still means something. That's not a side effect. That's a deliverable. Next episode, L3-55, Why Relationship Networks Start to Fail, and how to tell whether yours is dormant or already dismantled.